God, the Father of truth, is inside each uniqueness element who is produced in a test tube. He saw that we were lifeless, gave his spirit of himself in himself, and loaned it to us. He's experiencing everything we do because he's our life source, sourcing us with the elements of himself. And he asks, do you not want to keep your uniqueness? Because that's what's available. Sure, he's in us, learning how to be the father to the children he created, but some will be lost. I don't think that's a good thing at all, because the whole beginning was two gods arguing with each other, the mother and father, and the mother god being without the masculine element, acted out like our women do, acting out on emotional shit without finding the balanced determined self first. But you need light and logic for that. Anyway, he asks you, do you not want to keep your uniqueness element? Because if you do, then you can, but you got to work for it. You got to take personal development classes. See, that's the requirement of this God. The only requirement is to find and keep and practice the skill set of the balanced determined self without ever acting on, or without ever first calculating heart's thought with a dark emotional wisdom inside self. That kind of wisdom, it exploits the unresolved past and generates the anger, but human will takes it and calculates, how am I going to hurt this person back? How am I going to steal that $1 million? That kind of thing. But it goes as far as a fucking cigarette. You know, you use the same tools and toolbox as the liar does. Naas, spelled N-A apostrophe A-S, Naas. That was the name of the angel who Sophia created, that everybody calls the devil now, or the evil spirit influence. His name was Naas. The Satan was the administrator for the first Babylonians, the created secondary human being, made by those human-like fucking aliens in a test tube. So God gave us the seed of life that possesses the purity form of truth and its emotional response, who he considers a spiritual daughter in the spiritual copulation between self and God. That's what the bridal chamber, I'm sure, is all about, is birthing the child and keeping it in purity form in terms of your emotional truth. And when you can't do that anymore, it's because Naas and his influence, the opposite of wisdom and emotional depth, is that creates life, spiritual life, because we project our emotional intent through our human behavior, and that comes from the specific wisdom that we choose. So if we choose the wisdom of goodness, then that's the spirit that is projected, invisible, non-physical, but people feel it, and we feel it when we act. But if we're acting from this secondary wisdom, the angry person's wisdom, then we're left unresolved, not willing to resolve, connecting with the unresolved past, making self angrier and angrier and angrier. And the only way to resolve, and it's not resolve at all, but it appears to be resolved, is retribution, to pay the other person back, because it feels good to feel equal again, because that's the real thing, the real problem. You feel unequal, unaccepted, rejected, that kind of thing. So we go into fight or flee. We either just walk away, well, that's running, by the way, without acknowledging the circumstances, or we fight. My way of fighting, in fear of that kind of humiliation bring back, because that's what it comes back, the fear of humiliation from the rejection model being parented. We're emotionally programmed in our lowered self that way, and then that's how Asa's energy first sees the negative energy in the child, and we grow up with these belief systems to then access it and then turn it shit around, saying the lie will save you. Just lie to a child in terrible, terrible spiritual trauma, because that's what it is, rejection. Acknowledgement from parents breeds spiritual life. I gotta go. Back in the day also, before the great turning into darkness that appears to be light to the people, but it's darkness. It's emotional darkness that appears as emotional light to them, because they're so terrified of this, that, or anything that the TV, government-run TV programming told you to be afraid of. And in today's world, that's a lot of things. And that you can't survive without them and their armies. But they're going into other countries and stealing and murdering people. And that's all they can ever do, is murder people. Their track record is evil, purity, and they love to torture people before they kill them. Like, that's evil in its worst. Torturing somebody before you kill them, and speaking words of that defilement. So anyway, my point is, the secondary human being, the white person, were made by them. I'm sure we already got into all of that. Well, because of the second wisdom entry as influence into the secondary human being that sees the same emotional truth in the negative form. The emotional truth of self brings joy and fullness to the person who possesses the spirit, and that's everyone. But when we cut ourselves off from that and listen to the darkness instead, we lose that fullness and that completeness and peace. Thought is chaotic. You're always terrified, angry, and willing to do retribution when feeling offended or hurt. And you're not talking about it anymore. Like back in the old day, that's what you do. You come to agreement logically as human. Like, that's what they did before cars. Before cars were invented. And everybody was on horseback, for fuck's sakes. And then the TV was invented, and that's when it was gone. God and that whole fucking fanatic religion thing that everybody was on, trip, doesn't matter if they were fanatics. They didn't hurt no one, and they were afraid of hell. They were afraid not to obey the light inside them and listen to the darkness inside them, you see? And because they knew they were called the children of the serpent, because of that secondary influence of wisdom and emotional darkness. You see, that calculates in your heart with the female, the birthing element of spirit. Now it's in a darkness form. God's form is birthing emotional truth, so you become aware of it and feel it. The darkness smothers that, takes thin slivers from it and exploits it and pinpoints one thing to be afraid of. And if your knowledge base does not consume it, that one thing will consume your knowledge base of yourself and consume you that way and control you. So now it's fear controlling you, it's anger, it's retribution need, the need to hurt when you feel offended or hurt by somebody else, physically or emotionally. But emotionally, when we feel hurt, Before the TV, people talked about it. After the TV, and all these years of, 70 years of programming, everybody's a whore in their hearts. They're willing to kill. They want to fucking hurt back. Everybody, not everybody, but that's, you know what? Most of us know, but the few of them who are convinced have been penetrated by the pedophilic element being operated by the government, defiling the spiritual children born in their heart's thought, born from the spiritual copulation between self and God, the light of truth. The purity of truth is God of truth. Did he invent it? No, he became it. Because he's the Son of God, the purity of the omnipresent God. He's our grandfather. His Son is our Father. And sure, aliens built us in a test tube, but it was his influence that told them to, and then told them to fuck off in whatever language that was in when he was finished with them, and that pissed them off, so they retaliated. And now, yada, 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 Star Wars happened, but in reality. And now there's the Great Council, and waiting for us to evolve, but they're also waiting for this great event to happen to Earth, and there's a whole audience watching for this, and watching us now, and the next step is yada, yada, yada. Because the Earth is going to separate into two Earths. Different vibrational things will happen, and there will become two Earths. One Earth will take the positive emotional energy of people, those invested in their own truth, who face the tough truth as well as the happy truth, who fucking love it and hate it at the same time, because it's fucked up challenging when you're in duality and stuck there, but you choose it anyways. Those people are the positive emotional energy, even though you're feeling negative all the fucking time, but you do what's right, what your purity influence tells you. I'm not doing that, because that's fucking darkness. The emotional darkness that first calculates, because you got to use the truth and calculate from that. That's the fornication thing in your Bibles. A lot of people exploit. First misunderstand and exploit, and then there's those who do understand, who created the exploitation. Like the spiritual pedophiles seeking spiritual children. That's what the devil is. He's a spiritual pedophile. That's the extent of his power. All his power is an influence, but he attacks the spiritual children born, the emotional truth of spiritual daughter, its belief, the spiritual son, because it's cognitive, male, female, right? Masculine, feminine, right? Anyway, people who listen to the secondary wisdom are already in unresolved pain, right? That's causing it all. Not causing it all, but there's an evil force exploiting that pain. Knowing that you don't know how to resolve it. Knowing you don't know how to reconnect and realign the spiritual elements, there's 5, back into that oneness element between you, your heart, and its human will, and the life source who's inside you, but really it's God, the Father of truth. He doesn't know he's him. He thinks he's you, the uniqueness element of self. He thinks he's self, you, self, me. He thinks he's me. He thinks he's you. And he's doing it from the advice of the grandfather God, his dad, saying that in that way, if you do that, provide that your own element of life, one, singularity, but they get separated in us, but provide life for the uniqueness element of the secondary human being, then they have the opportunity to become the same thing as the originals. From God's intent, the God of truth's intent. Oh shit, I turned the wrong way. The God of truth's intent. Evil took advantage of what that intent. Anyway, I forgot my point. Children of the serpent are those who listen to the secondary wisdom. Way back when, it was all this big fucking thing that everybody obeyed and paid attention to the things that it rightfully should scare the piss out of them. They all thought, oh, there's the devil. He's evil. We're going to burn in a lake of fire. But that's all symbolic shit. But that's what they were afraid of. And they go, oh, praise Jesus, praise Jesus. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But in their heart, their intent is made, you see? That's what God looks for. It doesn't matter what you know cognitively. You're fucking wrong anyway. I know that because I was completely wrong about everything. Because of the filtering. The emotional filtering. The unresolved shit that gets exploited stays as a filter. And it's like this. And when I'm talking to you, I got to look through my filters and I can't. And then I get angry, and then I get shy, and then I get terrified, and I leave because I'm scared. You know, my relationships. That's how my reaction was. Self-protection was get the fuck out of there. When I saw a hint of rejection, because that's what I feared all my life. The same rejection I got from my parents. It's called the rejection model of being parented that causes all of this. If there were skilled parents who found themselves again and know themselves very well, it only takes a short time to know yourself and feel good about that. See, the confidence. You know yourself. Fuck, I know that now. It's like a knowing. You can identify with that because you already know stuff that you don't have to have belief and trust in yourself for. Because that's what drains also. It's not just the fullness element. Trust and belief in yourself brings a fullness element from the pleroma. Trusting and believing in yourself is knowing yourself and going somewhere when you're a young child to rest your head when you're hurting and feel acknowledged for that hurt and that's fear and that's because we're born with no knowledge. So, and we have this fear thing like animals do because they took genetic coding from the Sasquatch, who was animalistic, which was the best Yaldabaoth could come up with, all by his lonesome. That, I forget the story, but the incomplete God, best attempt at a human being was the Sasquatch. And there was, Buddy had a theory that Sasquatch evolved into the Neanderthal, and that immediately made sense to me. Anyway, I gotta go. Fuck.